Alright guys, welcome back. This is BadSenator. So I'm going to quickly go over the Senate and gubernatorial races, where I think they stand right now, and what party is likely to win them in November. So let's start with the blank map right now. Let's go to our safe, likely leaning toss-up. Let's fill in the safe states: Nebraska, Wyoming, Utah, Mississippi. Those 4 states not going to go to the Democrats. The special election might. We'll get to that later. California. Wait, why isn't California showing up in blue? California, come on, show up in blue for me. Really, I can make Washington blue. That's weird. Maybe because there's like 2 Democrats in California running or something that I can't change it or something. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. And Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar is way too popular to for anything to really, any challenge really come up against her. A similar thing going on. Martin Heinrich, Mick Rich is not a strong candidate. Can't really win. Michigan, I think, is in the safe column as well. New York, that's obviously going to the Democrats. And I think the 2 independents running for re-election, Angus King and Bernie Sanders, are only one as well. And we all know how liberal this part of the country is up here in through the Northeast. So let's fill in those states blue. And in Virginia, that's getting bluer every year. Tim Kaine's now a safe bet to win re-election, I think. Those are all the safe states. Let's go to the likely states. The special election in Minnesota is likely blue. So is Tammy Baldwin in Wisconsin and Bob Casey. That could be a race. I talked about how that could be a sleeper race with Lou Barletta. And then Bob Menendez, I think, is likely against Bob Hugin. Although I'm hearing more about that, could actually be a pretty close race. But as of right now, it's likely blue. Then see if California wants to do anything. No, California just wants to be tan for some reason. And then also it's likely red states. Texas is likely red. Beto O'Rourke is doing some pretty good fundraising at this point. He's drawing in a lot of out-of-state donations from Democrats who are excited about his chances of beating Ted Cruz. But in the end, because of his really bad primary, I don't think he's going to win. It's likely for him. And then in Mississippi, you had the Cindy Hyde-Smith race. Again, you have the thing with Chris McDaniel potentially beating Cindy Hyde-Smith and advancing to the runoff election with Mike Espy. That could certainly be problematic. If that were to happen, that would probably make this race competitive. But if Cindy Hyde-Smith and Mike Espy went to the primary, then that would be a safe bet for Cindy Hyde-Smith. So I'm putting it in between what I think the race ratings would be for each matchup, which is likely red. Alright, and let's do some leaning states. I think West Virginia is leaning blue. Patrick Morrisey's the Republican nominee here. Don Blankenship, he's considering a third-party run. If that were to happen, Pat Morrisey's done. But I even think that Pat Morrisey is still not favored to win in this state because Joe Manchin has won by double digits ever since he ran for governor back in 2004. And he's been winning by double digits. And the media makes the case, because Trump won here by so much, that puts him in danger all of a sudden. I don't think it really does, though, because, there's going to be a lot of Trump Manchin voters. And I think, the people that voted for Obama twice and Trump once in West Virginia are going to go for Joe Manchin in the end, because he is that kind of, candidate who's a really good fit for his state, given his policy positions. In Ohio, I think Sherrod Brown is also lean in that state. He's a good fit for his state, Sherrod Brown. He is liberal on the social side, but on the economic side, he's very Trumpian. And obviously this has a lot of appeal with the Ohio and all the blue-collar voters there. So one of the most gutsy calls is going to be Nevada. Now, I'm going to go and complain for a minute about I'm disappointed thus far with the main pundits' coverage of this election cycle. Because usually at this point, we're 5 months away from the election day. Usually you're going to have pundits rating races as being potential flips. You'd have pundits rating races as lean blue, even when you have a Republican incumbent. Or in Missouri, I'm about to rate that one lean red, even though Claire McCaskill is the incumbent who's a Democrat. So I think I'm disappointed thus far with the pundits' coverage of this election cycle, because like they're not being gutsy enough. I mean, you don't want to be too gutsy because we all know how that went back in 2016, but you need to have a little bit of gut. And I think these pundits are just have shell shock almost from their failure to predict the 2016 election, that they're being very hedgy. They're hedging a lot of their bets in 2018 and rating races that I think really should be lean Democrat flip in Nevada or lean Republican flip in Missouri. They're just rating those as toss-up because they want to be cautious as to not have another debacle. But again, it's not fun to read a race. It's not fun to have 7 toss-ups. I want to know who's favored in each race. And I plan to give you that information. And yeah. And then let's do some lean Republican races. I think Tennessee is lean Republican, and Phil Bredesen is the very popular former Democrat governor of Tennessee. And you have Marsha Blackburn, who is a representative there. Marsha Blackburn is obviously going to get the conservative basis to rally for her. Can Bredesen win? I think he could win. He's a popular governor, and Bob Corker has hinted that, he might, at least not campaign for Marsha Blackburn. And I think he could win. The main issue here, I think, is like in Tennessee, these are like the Appalachia kind of areas. You have a lot of economically liberal, socially conservative Democrats. Phil Bredesen is the opposite. You have an economic conservative and a social liberal. I think that the ideological opposite of what you'd expect from a Democrat in Tennessee is not good for him. In Missouri, look at that, surprise, rating that one as lean red, and that gets Republicans to a majority in the Senate. The reason I'm rating Missouri as likely red is because, not likely red, lean red. I'm rating it lean red because Josh Hawley, the governor of Missouri, Eric Greitens, just dropped out of the race. Not dropped out of the race, he resigned as governor. Eric Greitens is the very extremely controversial governor there who was in a sex scandal. And now he's resigned. That's not something Josh Hawley needs to worry about now because he resigned. And that was the one thing keeping me from rating the Massachusetts lean Republican. Josh Hawley, that whole scandal with Eric Greitens and Josh Hawley. And now that that's gone, I think this race is lean Republican, leaning for Josh Hawley. Claire McCaskill is a good campaigner, though. It's been demonstrated by her previous election bids. She's a good campaigner, and I would not count her out of the race. And then that's what I think these toss-up races are. I think the toss-up races are Indiana, Florida, North Dakota, Montana, and Arizona. California is supposed to be safe Democrat. I don't know why it isn't. Let's see if we can try to change that again. No, apparently it's not letting us change California, which is odd. Due to, click one? I don't know. Yeah, we'll just leave it tad and just... Alright, so let's characterize some of these toss-up races. In Florida, I think Bill Nelson is a slight favorite to win. In my election night video, I said that Rick Scott was going to win. However, I explained in the comments section that I had so many Democrats that were just so barely favored to win that there's no way all of them could win. I had Democrats in Ohio, West Virginia, Indiana, Nevada, Arizona, Montana. All of those Democrats there, I had them winning so narrowly. And I thought to myself, they can't all win. With the Democrat lead on the generic congressional ballot decreasing, there's no way they all could win. But I think if you look at this from an individual standpoint, I think Bill Nelson's favored to win in Florida. Barely. Rick Scott is running a good campaign thus far, and he could definitely flip things. In Indiana, same thing, I think. Joe Donnelly is favored to win slightly there. Mike Braun is a weaker candidate, and Joe Donnelly is a moderate, so it's not like you're a crazy if you voted for Trump and Donnelly. I don't know, it's not like, there's going to be a lot of people that voted for Trump and Donnelly. So he's definitely more of a moderate, and I think his moderacy will carry him to victory in the end. In North Dakota, I think this race just barely is in Kevin Cramer's column at this point. However, Kevin Cramer is not running a very good campaign, and Heidi Heitkamp has the potential to run a great campaign. She's run great campaigns before. She could do it again. And that race could become very close and in Heidi Heitkamp's column, perhaps in July. In Montana, this one is also going to be extremely close. I think John Tester has a slight advantage. Matt Rosendale is the state auditor. If he runs a good campaign, John Tester's in huge trouble. And, John Tester and Donald Trump are, not friends. And that's not good for John Tester in a state that voted for Trump by 20 points. I mean, Trump is not an enemy Tester wants to make at this point. And I think he is making him an enemy, sort of. And that's not good for his re-election chances, This is Montana. Trump's approval here is in the high 50s. A lot of Trump supporters. And Matt Rosendale can really rally them. And I think that if, John Tester makes the wrong move with his whole relationship with Trump, he could be in huge trouble. And he also hasn't won pluralities. He hasn't won a plurality. Well, he's won pluralities, but not majorities, like 50% plus one vote, in either of his elections in 2006 and in 2012. So that also is a bad thing for him. Good thing for him is that you have a weak-ish candidate in Matt Rosendale that could prove to be wrong on that one. He is pretty popular. He has about a 58% approval rating, I think. And then you also have the fact that, Montana likes Democrats like John Tester, kind of. You have Steve Bullock as governor, and John Tester. There's a certain brand, I guess, of Montana Democrats that people really like and people vote for. So historically speaking, that's also a good thing for John Tester. And then finally, Arizona. I think that one is just barely in the Republicans column. And let's fill in Hawaii. Can I fill in Hawaii? Yes, that's supposed to be solid blue. Hawaii, Arizona. I think this one is slightly favoring the Republicans because I think if Martha McSally wins the primary, she's proven in her past elections that she can win in areas that are going for Hillary Clinton on the presidential level. Her district voted for Hillary Clinton, but she won it by like 13 points. And she does kind of have a little bit of a centrist appeal in that regard. And I think she could end up making inroads and winning against Kyrsten Sinema. Again, that's only if she wins the primary. If Kelly Ward or Joe Arpaio wins the primary, I don't think Arpaio is going to win the primary, but if Kelly Ward wins the primary, this one is going to be in Kyrsten Sinema's column, I think. But I think McSally's going to win. The polls have really turned back in favor of McSally since I did this last in May, and I think that she would win because of it. And then here's what the Senate's going to look like in 2019. Just pretend California is solid blue. And then here we have 52 Republican senators to 48 Democrat senators. So with the governorships, let's start by filling in the safe states. California and Hawaii are both very blue states, and I don't see them going for the Republican candidate. I think they're both likely going to stay in the Democrats' column. Now, surprisingly, those are, I think, the only safe states for the Democrats at this point in time. I'm going to explain why in a bit. But on the Republican side, we have safe states in Texas, Arkansas, Alabama, South Carolina, Nebraska. South Dakota could get interesting right now. It's safe GOP as well as Wyoming, Idaho. And then we have some popular GOP governors up in here. I think Vermont and Massachusetts. Usually some very blue states. But I think they are safe Republican because they have such popular GOP governors up there. They both have approval ratings in the high 60s to low 70s. And they're going to win because of it. So, now let's go to the likely states. There are a bunch of likely states for the Republicans, including Tennessee, Georgia. Both those were Georgia, Stacey Abrams, making history of being the first African-American female in the South to be nominated in a Democrat for a governor's race. And if her strategy works, actually, we're going to leave that lean Republican. Her strategy is going to work in Georgia. Well, not necessarily going to work as in winning, but I think her strategy of rallying African-American voters who haven't really voted before in elections has the potential to work really well, especially in the year that will likely at least be a little bit pro-Democrat. Tennessee, I rate this as likely because you have the the mayor of Nashville running, and mayors of Nashville have become governors of Tennessee before, Philip Edison, for an example, and I think that, he's a strong candidate and could definitely make this a race, but as of right now, Tennessee is just so red that I don't see it happening exactly right now. Oklahoma, Kansas are also likely states, and so is Maryland. New Hampshire, speaking of the devil, is already likely red, so we'll just leave it like that. So, Kansas and Oklahoma be very unpopular Republican governors. But again, these are blue states we're talking about here. And I don't think they're going to go for the Democrats, especially in Kansas. You have Greg Orman splitting the vote on the Democrat side. In New Hampshire and Maryland, again, you have popular Republican governors. They're a little bit less popular than the ones in Vermont and Massachusetts, but still popular enough that they are likely bets to win re-election. Let's do the likely Democrat states. I think the 3 likely Democrat states at this point are Oregon, Pennsylvania, and New York. New York, you're saying, shouldn't that be safe, Democrat? Well, here's the thing. In New York, you have the potential for Cynthia Nixon to run a third-party campaign. If she does run a third-party campaign, she's already polling 20%. And I'm pretty sure that almost all of her vote would be Andrew Cuomo's if she was not running. And then you have a lot of corruption going on in Albany right now with the whole A.G. Schneiderman thing. That's not boding well for the Cuomo administration. And Mark Molinaro, the Republican nominee, I mean, he's definitely a moderate. I think he can definitely have some appeal. And if the Democrats end up splitting the vote, then that is great for Molinaro. And if that'd be a scenario, they might be able to win. So New York right now is likely blue. Guess we'll see if the whole third-party Nixon campaign can really develop. Going on to some other Republican likely states. I think we're done with all likely states. Let's do some of the lean states. I think Ohio, Iowa, Arizona. Those are all the likelies of the lean red states, as well as Georgia. They're all lean red. Well, Georgia I explained earlier. Ohio, Mike DeWine, Richard Cordray. That it should be toss-up, but the only reason isn't because we have Mike DeWine, who has a large amount of money. He's well known in Ohio. He's very high profile, and he has a history of winning. He's won 9 out of his last 11 elections, so he has a high KD ratio, if that's what we want to call it. In Iowa, Kim Reynolds is mildly popular, and I had it as likely a Democrat before, but I think it's lean Republican now because you have a popular, or at least a good candidate on the Democrat side. I forget his name, but I know he's a good candidate, endorsed by a lot of Democrats in the state that were elected. So I think that Iowa is likely only leaning Republican now. In Arizona, you have Doug Ducey, the governor now. He's not that popular, but he has a lot of money, and you don't have a lot of very strong Democrat opposition. Again, that could become toss-up, though, if the Democrat runs a good campaign. So that's a race to watch. Then on the Democrat side, Maine is lean Democrat, and New Mexico. Those 2 states kind of go together because you have blue states in which a Republican governor is term limited. And then you have potentially good Republican fields that may not be able to save it. I don't think they will save these seats for their respective parties, and I think the 2 Democrats running will win. Then in Michigan, I think Michigan's a lean flip for the Democrats. A lot of these pundits have it as toss-up. I think it's lean. You have the unpopular former governor Rick Snyder, and the state only voted for Trump by 0.3%, and it voted for Obama by heavy margins. And I think that because of that, you have a Democrat that really harness that power and get out the vote. I think that's why it's lean Democrat. Illinois, Bruce Rauner's in big trouble against J.P. Pritzker. He's in big trouble, I think, because again, this is a blue state. Pritzker has a lot of money, and it's gonna be a close race, I think. But Pritzker has the money edge. The state is heavily Democrat on the presidential level, and Bruce Rauner isn't popular within his own party. He had a primary challenge that almost got him booted out from office there. In Minnesota, that one's also lean blue. I originally had this toss-up because of Tim Pawlenty was running, but Tim Pawlenty has never gotten a majority of vote. He's only gotten pluralities. That's going to be the devil for him, I think. With no likely third-party campaign being that strong in Minnesota in this time around the gubernatorial election, I think that he won't be able to win because of that. In Colorado, I think that's also going to be in lean Democrat territory because you have John Hickenlooper, the popular governor who's term limited, likely bringing up the Democrat who runs in this already bluish state. And yeah, that's my rating so far. The toss-up states, there's 6 of them. Let's look at each of them now. Rhode Island. Rhode Island is probably my rating that's going to shock you the most. A lot of pundits have it as lean or likely blue. I think it's toss-up, though. If you look to the 2014 election results, you have Alan Fung, the Republican nominee, almost beating Gina Raimondo. He came within 4 points. And he would have won if it hadn't been for Bob Healy, the moderate candidate, the third-party candidate, who took a lot of vote away from Alan Fung. Now, in 2018, the governor's races, the national environment has a lot less impacts on gubernatorial races, especially in this part of the country, with more open-minded New Englanders than the Senate and House. And Alan Fung is running again against Gina Raimondo. But again, you do have Rhode Island's a blue state, and it is kind of a blue environment, which shows a little bit of impact. So I think that race just barely is in the Democrat column. Not in Connecticut, though. In Connecticut, you have Mark Bowden, the kind of mildly popular Republican nominee. He's won in Danbury, lots of elections in Danbury, and that's a Clinton town. I voted for Hillary Clinton. And Mark Bowden has proven he can make inroads with usually Democrat voting people. And then you have the Democrats who are very unpopular in Connecticut. The current governor of Connecticut, Dan Malloy, has a 29% approval rating. That's lower than Jimmy Carter. And Democrats aren't really viewed as favorably. Mark Bowden can really make inroads with dissatisfied, usually Democrat voters, and can win it, I think. In Florida, I think this one is lean Democrat. This one's almost pure toss-up, but I think the pure Democrat environment will have a lot more impact down here than it might in the Northeast. And that will give Philip Levine the boost he needs to win. In Wisconsin, though, I think that one is still lean Republican. Scott Walker is going to rally the conservative bases, and they don't really have a whole lot of true proven candidates, not really a lot of good candidates on the Democrat side. In Nevada, I think Democrats also favor there. You have a similar situation in Florida. I think the environment makes this a justifiably Democrat state. Again, it's voted blue. It was bluer than Florida in 2016, voting for Hillary Clinton. And I think the Democrats will win again there. Although Brian Sandoval, the current GOP governor, is popular, a lot of the Republicans are, not really going along with Brian Sandoval's more moderate policies, or I guess in a way separating themselves from the former popular governor. And then finally in Alaska, I think this one leans Democrat. Mark Begich threw his hat into this race a few days ago. Mark Begich's the popular former senator from Alaska. And the only reason he lost in 2014 in a closer than expected race was because of the red wave that year. But in the governor's race, I think that in a matchup between him and a Republican and Bill Walker, I think he has enough popularity to pull this out. And he was popular for reasons that would make him a good governor, too, in Alaska. And that's the final map right now. 22 Democrats to 28 Republicans. Governors by party, there you go. Thanks for watching. Bye!